Guess who joins us right now on the phone from Pittsburgh? None other than the man himself, Rich Eisen. Where exactly do we find you right now, Rich?
I am inside the Steelers facility. Practice is going on just across the way. I am in a conference room just down the hall from the display of 6 Lombardi trophies. And I walk past it with the rest of the group because, I'm here doing the game with the Game Day Morning Gang and Mooch and Kurt and Irv. And we walk past it, and I'm like, I look at Mariucci. I'm like, not many places you can walk into, and there's 6 of these. Pause, and Irv goes, I have 5. Not 6, but I have 5. How about 5? Like, okay. Okay. But it was just a funny moment. Just we're standing right there. So that's where I'm at right now here in Pittsburgh.
So you arrive in Pittsburgh, and one of the things that always greets you in that airport is kind of between the 2 sets of escalators as you're heading down to baggage claim is the Franco Harris statue.
Yeah.
You had known for quite some time you were going to be doing this game between the Raiders and the Steelers, the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. What we did not know, of course, was that Franco Harris was going to pass away just days before that game. What type of a memorial, if any, did you see around that statue, and what's just the mood at a just a very strange and sort of sad moment in Steelers history?
Yeah, I arrived shortly after midnight last night. I left after the show yesterday, and it's my first time in the new Pittsburgh airport where I'd never taken a tram in from my gate. So I was wondering where the Franco Harris statue was. And normally where it is at the top of the escalators going down to baggage claim, as you mentioned, and it's now new and bigger and more modern, but there it was. And it was on its own with some, I guess, not ropes around it, but just it was set off to the side by itself in front of a Christmas tree, and people were lining up at midnight to take photographs with it and lay wreaths, flowers, a terrible towel on it. I took a photograph of it last night. The person who followed me on that line was somebody who took a yellow Steelers wristband, a plastic wristband off, like one of those, I guess, for the lack of a better phrase, like fill in the blank strong type of plastic wristbands that people put around their wrists. Somebody took that off and laid it on the football as the part of the statue. And the person who was in front of me, she was crying, like bawling, and hugged Franco Harris's statue as she was taking a picture. I mean, this is a mourning period in this town, and I saw it within 2 minutes of arriving. And now I'm here at the Steelers facility, and people are really dazed around here because it was completely shocking, unexpected. I just heard that Cam Hayward had Franco on his podcast the night before. And he's wondering about whether he should release the interview. And if I see him later, he's a friend of the program, I'd like to say, and I'll tell him absolutely he should. And one of the lines that's in there apparently is Franco said that part of the celebration that he's really excited about is the fact that he's actually here to celebrate it. Mm-hmm. And it just hits you in the gut when you hear that. It just absolutely hits you in the gut when you hear that. And, I hope I'm not telling any tales out of school here because it is up to Cam Hayward to put it out there. I hope he does. And I will tell him that personally. And it's just mind-blowing that Franco passes as he's about to be honored and have his jersey retired. And right now the plans are to go through with the jersey retirement ceremony at halftime. And really what the Steelers have just told me is they're acceding to the wishes of Franco's family as to how they want to proceed. But Saturday night's going to be very emotional. It's going to be, as I said, to the guys yesterday. The stadium will turn into a cathedral, but there will be a celebration of his life. And for fans here, hopefully a celebration of the Steelers beating the Raiders the day after the 50th actual anniversary of the Immaculate Reception.
And Franco Harris, correct me if I'm wrong here, Rich, but he was around quite a bit. I think a lot of the players, especially the veterans, the Cam Haywards of the world, had relationships with him. And again, this was building toward this. It's a national TV game on NFL Network, and it is a celebration of the 50th anniversary of the most iconic play in NFL history. I'm very curious to see how players and staff, to say nothing of, I know yesterday, Rich, I was told Art Rooney was really, needed some time to process, because I was asking various people, what's going to happen with regard to the celebrations. And it was Mr. Rooney needs time, to really think through this. Even setting that aside, just how the players are going to react and what this is going to do emotionally. I'll be interested to see, because this was not just some guy that people saw a photo of him on the wall. This was a real life person who they knew.
There's no question. I mean, he is the guy that's been around this team, and the players love and adore him. And the number of people, again, who called the show yesterday, or, I was chit-chatting with on the flight to Pittsburgh. And I'm sure people who I'm going to see around town over the next 2-3 days, everyone's got a story. Everyone's got a story about what Franco meant to them, or what Franco did for them, or what Franco was doing. Apparently this week he was spending a lot of time getting ready for this weekend and doing stuff for others getting ready for this weekend. And he's just one of the sweetest souls and gentlest souls that anybody in the NFL can meet. And it just is, as we're preparing for this game, the number of times we've all watched the actual play of the Immaculate Reception. And we had Terry on the show yesterday telling his version of events, or his point of view of the events, flat on his back after he released the football. It is just amazing that it happened. It's truly wild that it happened, and how it changed the fortune of this town and the fortunes of this franchise and the people who were involved in the play, and how the Steelers made the playoffs only once since their genesis of 1933 until that moment, and how it's the first touchdown in the history of the Steelers postseason, and it's Bradshaw and Franco Harris's first postseason touchdown. It really is just an amazing story that now has the, final chapter involving the man who caught the ball and is so famous for it, passing away 2 days before the 50th anniversary of it. It really is mind-blowing. And so a lot of people around here, Tom, are numb, but they're going to have to play a game. And then when they play the game, we're all going to be numb, because it's apparently going to be -7 prediction for it. So it's going to be a memorable night, to say the least.
We were discussing in the first hour, Rich, we had some hairy moments last night as I was sitting on the runway wondering if I was actually going to be in this chair in beautiful El Segundo and not back at home or lying on the floor in an airport stranded last night. This is hitting the whole country. There's teams that are traveling. They've changed their travel plans because of this. I know the Browns are taking off today for their game. I don't know how many people you've gotten a chance to talk to through production meetings and whatnot, but how if at all, are teams between the Steelers and the Raiders trying to prepare for what are going to be pretty extreme elements on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are currently practicing in their indoor facility. We're chatting with the team, stars and coaches today, talking to McDaniels tonight on Zoom. So I don't think there's any way to prepare for it until you're in it. And again, the winner of this game improved 7-8 with a chance to make it, and the loser goes to 6-9. And then obviously there's the bigger than football aspect of the contest, and how the Steelers are going to be trying to honor Franco during the game. And I think it's one of those contests that you'll end up looking back on years from now and remembering it as the special event that we all expect it to be. And obviously the players themselves for the Steelers are going to be They're going to be mindful of it, and they're going to be, I would imagine, inspired by it. And I'm going to, proper to say how the fans are just going to be full-throated despite the freezing temperature. And those who might have been like, I don't know if I want to go to this game when it's -5 out, they're all going to show up now and be there for Franco. I'm telling you, man. I mean, I arrived last night. A number of people who got off the plane in a Steelers jersey or a hat or it's just woven in the fabric of this town. And the man who probably weaved it together more than anyone else is the one who will be honored on Saturday.
Both these teams, Rich, have had, to say the least, a lot go wrong this season. The Raiders with the blown leads and all the injuries that they've had, and then the Steelers with multiple quarterback changes. Everything that's gone into that. Obviously, everybody facing criticism because of how the season has played out. But I think back to when the NFL added the 7th playoff spot in each conference, and then more recently when they added the 17th game. I think that there was a lot of positivity, but there were definitely detractors who were saying, number one, you're watering it down. You're adding too many people here. The games aren't going to mean as much. And then the season's too long. People are going to be, completely out of it, and they're just going to be playing out the string. We're going in, starting tonight with the Jaguars and Jets, with 27 of 32 teams mathematically alive. And the fact that you have the Steelers and Raiders, again, who've had frustrating seasons, to say the least, this is a relevant game. I was saying in the last segment, these are final destination games. You got a bunch of them this weekend. Tonight's game is one. Your game on Saturday is one where the team that wins is going to feel like, hey, we got a shot at this thing. The other team is out, and that is a beautiful thing for the NFL at a time where it's almost Christmas here on the calendar.
Yeah, I agree with you, obviously, but two things come to mind. One is, let's see how the 7 seeds who eventually make it fare. Okay, let's see how they perform, because the 7 seeds so far really haven't acquitted themselves very well. So, which 7 seed is going to make it and pop a 2 seed off? One and done, a team that just missed the bye week because they're that good. So we'll see how that goes when it arrives. This year we've been talking to the Patriots, and the Jets have the proper firepower. Obviously, a 7-seeded Dolphins team would be particularly dangerous, I think. Tyreek Hill strolling into 2nd-seeded Kansas City would be something that I think would be thrown on the table to support what you just said, your soliloquy, that the 7th seed is not watering anything down. As a matter of fact, it is putting a team in the playoffs that is dangerous and can go from the 7th seed to win it all. In the same way, the Steelers in this building have got one of those trophies I just mentioned. They were a 6th seed one year and won it all. The Giants did something similar to that. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see if a 7th seed can do it. And then the other thing is, if we are seeing teams stay in the running this late, okay, maybe pushing the trade deadline back a little bit, so you could see how many teams who have a shot to go would be more willing to trade somebody, and then those who potentially are already out of it. I mean, the Bears already coughed up, as you know, Roquan Smith in the middle of the season. How many more teams would be willing to make that acquisition or make a trade like that? If they know they're going to be one of the 5 teams, or feel like they're going to be one of the 6 teams that hits Christmas weekend that's out of it. Just throwing that out there. But it is something that I think is great. We are talking about tonight's game being more important because the 7th seed exists. Saturday night's game, obviously Green Bay. First Christmas Day game. If there wasn't a 7th seed, I would think that game would be far less relevant for Green Bay than it obviously will be. Just these are all 4 examples, and I'm loving it. I'm here for it.
The trade deadline debate is going to be a fascinating one, Rich, because at the winter meetings last week, the NFL General Manager Advisory Committee had this discussion. It's something that some teams have brought up. from my understanding, there is a level of support. It's going to be gathering momentum among the clubs to push it back. It's not going to be pushed back a month. It's a week, maybe 2. It sounds like 1 week has the most support as of now. But the competition committee has not yet weighed in. You brought up the Bears example. The concern is the deeper you push it back, it's not about more teams becoming buyers. It's about more teams becoming sellers. Now you have the teams are out dumping players to contenders, more teams doing what the Bears did, which then impacts the competitive balance. On the flip side of that, just from a person who covers it standpoint, besides the fact that the trade deadline is extraordinarily stressful for me, it's fun. Everyone likes more trades. Everybody enjoys this. It's a good thing, but there's going to be a balance here. This is going to be an interesting likely vote either in March or May. You need 24 or 32 owners to sign off on it. I'll be fascinated to see how much support it really has.
I just don't know if this league is just tank proof. To be honest with you, Tom. I mean, look at the Texans. Look at the Texans last 2 weeks. Pushed TJ's Cowboys to the brink. Took the Chiefs to overtime, and then stopped the Chiefs in overtime, and they got 1 win. And 2 quarterbacks playing. I mean, you take a look at the Lions, who traded T.J. Hawkinson within division, and Brock Wright is the one who scores the big touchdown. I just don't know how the Bears almost knocked off the Eagles, and they're the ones who coughed up Roquan Smith. So I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know how many teams are really out there because of the pridefulness of the men who play it. Yeah, I mean, I know they did eventually lose the game, but if this team's tanking, then you should be beating them by 20, 25, right? 30.
True.
Wow.
I mean,
it's not good for business.
Whereas in the NBA, you take a look at a team like the Warriors, who are still load managing Klay Thompson a year and a half later. Last night on a back-to-back, they give up 90 in the first half. I'm not saying they're tanking, but when you take out star players, it does mean a significant difference in a single night in the NBA. But in the NFL, it doesn't. Doesn't appear to be.
The difference is in the NFL, you have to tank by getting rid of all your good players because there is no, Mark Madsen sitting out there shooting threes way of tanking. You can't just completely half-ass it. It has to be you have to go hard. But yeah, to your point, I mean that is true, and that's all stuff. The data is going to drive a lot of this in terms of what are we seeing in terms of the patterns of trades and everything else. Last thing for you, Rich, before we let you go, obviously the sub-zero temperatures. We've seen, I think it's fair to say, some interesting wardrobe choices by members of your game day morning crew for cold weather games in the past. What is your plan? I don't know if you got a heater up there, if you've surveyed where you're calling the game from. What are we going to see you wearing, and is it going to be a garbage bag?
We'll be in the booth. I've got my winter coat. I know we're going to have some heaters up there, but it's terrible form to close the windows when you're calling a broadcast. It's really bad form to do that because you need to have the energy of the building. You need to feel the energy of the building. You need to feel part of the building. So we will keep the windows open. I'm going to try and lobby for not opening all of them. But Mariucci is like Mr. Iron Mountain, Michigan. He's probably going to be like Kirk Cousins, take his shirt off or whatever. So we're going to have this conversation later on tonight. Just really depends on how cold it's going to be, but we'll be here and we'll leave the light on for you. And by the way, just as I know you're up against it, the reason why I knew about Klay Thompson is I have him on my fantasy team. But in case Chris and TJ are wondering, I still maintained my lead last night despite not having Klay. I know you're concerned about it, but I'm still in first and still doing very well this week.
Hey, Rich. Before you go, let's get to the most important question here, and that is: have you found where the Heinz ketchup bottles are being hidden? Has somebody pointed you in the right direction? That's all we all want. I'm going
to be on the case. I'm going to be on the case like Inspector Gadget.
Because you got to have that info by Saturday, bro.
Done. I got it. I got you. First question of Mike Tomlin when I see him later.
First question.
Well, what's the over/under on Heinz Field references by you during the broadcast, Rich?
I've already done it. I did it yesterday, didn't I? On the show, didn't I call it Heinz Field? Did I do that? I forget where I did that, but it's going to happen. That's what the other thing too is the guy who drove who was, who took me in from the airport last night. The first thing he bitched about was called Acrisure.
And if you
complaining about, I love this.
If you saw Rich's Instagram, he kind of gave you that iconic view of Pittsburgh as you drive through the tunnel and you come out and the city's there, and it's just like something I've seen a million times before, but it's awesome.
Like a comic book, it's amazing. I do love it.
Have
nice
fun,
to run
Rich.
Those streets, Rich.
Stay warm.
All right, guys.
We'll be watching you.
I'll call him. Take care, guys.
All right,
See you, brother.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.